MMAOddsBreaker this week, of course, we have the big show, Jared Rosholt, getting ready to fight UFC 185 coming up here against Josh Copeland. Right in your backyard. You don't even have to go far. Are you going to check into the hotel, or are you going to stay at home the whole time, or is it a little bit too far for you to make the drive over to the arena?
No, we talked about it the other day at sparring, or right after sparring on Friday evening. Phil, my sheriff, the guy that goes with me everywhere, he asked, he said, "Are you want to stay at home, or do you want to go stay at a hotel? Go stay at the hotel?" And I said, I need to go stay at the hotel. That's how it's going to be every time I fight. That's time to focus. Get away from the kids, get away from the family, and focus on what I've got to do and get done. So I'm going to keep it the same as always, and just keep my mind right.
Are you a big creature of habit, like especially when it comes to fight week? Do you try to do things every single time the exact same way so it feels familiar and more comfortable?
I try to keep it very similar. Some people will be like, "Oh, well, I have to do the exact same warm up every time before a fight and stuff." I don't. It doesn't have to be the exact. If I don't do this perfectly or whatever, it doesn't feel right to me. But everything's pretty much the same. I mean, I try and do the same workout during fight week. I try and do the same thing to prepare the week of the fight, even as far as like taking like hot baths and stuff like that the week of the fight, just to stay loose, stuff like that. I never take baths ever, but fight week I'll take one that week and just try and keep my muscles loose.
Yeah, obviously it's not for cutting weight purposes. You do it just to stay loose. And it's interesting how much of a difference it does make being in hot water, whether it's a jacuzzi or a hot bath or a natural steam bath outdoors in the mountains. It doesn't make a difference how much better your body feels. Do you put? I'm trying to make this sound as masculine as possible without. Do you put anything special in the bath water? Like I'm a big Epsom salt guy, but I also have to cut weight. So for me, when I was competing, that I would put Epsom salt in there, but I didn't even do that during training camp during the weeks just to get rid of soreness. It had nothing to do with the weight cut.
Yeah, I never used to do it or anything, and then we'd signed Kenny Monday on as our wrestling coach a while back, and he'll wrestle live with me and stuff. I'm like, this guy's 52 years old and he's getting in here and just going strong with me. I'm like, how's this guy's body hold up? Because I'm all achy and stuff, my joints and stuff are hurting all the time, and he's telling me, he said, I think a lot that has to do with it was I started soaking all the time. He said I started soaking in hot baths and hot tubs. He said use the Epsom salt all the time. So I started doing it a little bit, and I even got a membership to LA Fitness right down the road from my place. And then I told the lady when I was signing up there, I said, I don't need anything from this gym except for to use your hot tub a couple times a week. That's it. So and I just started doing that this camp for the first time. Was going, like this morning, it's Sunday, it's my day off. I wanted to go sit in the hot tub and get my joints and muscles hot, and without having to put out any, hard work, any output,
Yeah.
So, and it makes me feel 10 times better. I mean, I feel like my joints are loose and stuff, and I'm not near as achy. My hands don't hurt like they do during the week. I think it's a very positive thing to start doing.
Are you going to incorporate it now all the time? You obviously done through this whole training camp. Are you going to keep doing it now, even though say you're not in training camp, like the next month or so after your fight? You're like, well, I'm working out a little bit. I'm not as intense, but I still need to soak just to kind of keep the base going.
I think so, because I get so stiff, and especially, I always think about it. I'm like, whenever I retire, whenever I'm done working out, I'm probably going to be done working out. I've been doing it long enough. I don't want to do it anymore. And I get so tight after sitting around for 2 days. My muscles get tight. My back starts to hurt. It's just that I've been doing the hard workouts and stuff, working out for over 20, probably 23 years or so, and to go from doing that every day to sitting on your butt, I mean, it's just my muscles just shrink up. I get tight. I don't want to eat as much. I don't drink as much fluid, and my body actually just starts hurting. It's almost like I'm gonna have to keep active even when I'm done, with competing.
Do you well, actually, let's change gears. Because you're talking about how sore you are, and a lot of us you mentioned Kenny Monday is the reason why you do get so sore. I mean, pulling on you and banging on him. How good a fighter would he have been if he had stopped wrestling and got out and went to MMA in like '92, right when the UFC started, right when the fight game started, right after he had, I think at '92 he took a silver medal at that year, and then lost to the Korean or the South Korean rather, excuse me, and then would have jumped in MMA right at the very beginning. Like, do you think his path would have been completely different?
Oh man, I don't know if it would have been at that time, but I think he could have done very well at it. I don't know when was Couture was there, in the early 2000s
Yeah.
was when
Well,
he was really
Couture
getting
was
big.
Couture was at Oklahoma State in 1990 through '94 before he graduated. So right the same time
Yeah,
that Kenny was there and was winning his medals, that Randy was there, training with him at the same time.
yeah, I think he would have done really well though, because just when I'm wrestling with him, I'm like, this guy's still really quick and he's still really strong for 50. I mean, you would never think the guy's 52 years old. It's
Yeah.
actually amazing. Mark Lehman and Adrian, our strength and conditioning coach, those guys, they'll all come in just to watch me and him wrestle live, and they'll just sit there and watch. They're like, man, you got a hard one in a day. I can't believe that guy's 52. I said, I know. I said, those guys, they have that old man wrestling strength. It never seems to leave him. And then he's still, with age, it seems like guys lose their quickness. The
Hmm.
strength can kind of stick around. It's kind of that old man strength, but he's still got that speed. That's like, man, this is a competitive speed, and I can't imagine what he was like when he's down to weight. And during his prime, I mean, he must be
Yeah.
just lightning because he is still fast, and those guys are smart. They all know good positioning. They don't get out of positions. They don't have to work as hard, so their shape feels a lot better than what it probably is. They just don't get out of position, and you feel that with them though.
Has he helped you with your position, your overall fight position, as far as like even not just wrestling, but just knowing that okay, this is a bad spot. I need to get my hands back up again, or take a quarter step to my right to get out of the way of the punches. Has he helped you with that stuff too?
Yeah, he's helped me a little bit with the punching stuff, just takedowns off of that, and maybe trying. He's kind of taking me outside of my comfort zone because when I'd wrestle and stuff, I was never really an upper body guy. Of course and I still am. I'm a lighter heavyweight than in the UFC, but I was even lighter in college, and guys could weigh up to 285. And I was never a big upper body thrower, and I didn't want to take on those guys when I was 230 and they were 65 to 285.
Yeah.
It's just hard to throw those guys around. And he's taught me to kind of use some of those upper body throws a little bit more, and taking me out of my comfort zone. And that's what he was good at too. He is really good at throws also. So it's helped me out a lot there. I think he's probably been surprised that I keep pretty good position when I wrestle, and that's because I had to, being a smaller
Yeah.
guy in college wrestling. And I wrestled with Mako,
Yeah.
for a couple of years, who was a stud, and when I was young. So I learned a lot about positioning from him. And then with Cormier, I wrestled with him. And Daniel was a huge position guy, always had position, had position. I learned a lot from those guys, and I think it kind of surprised him probably. He's like, this guy's not bad.
Yeah, and that's one of the things actually. When Kenny first made the move, I actually talked to him a little bit, and actually him moving down to Team Takedown actually got him and I to reconnect because I had to interview him for obviously for MMA Oddsbreaker, and it helped us get reconnected. He's like, yeah, it's like working with the Black Zillions is one deal. The guys are big and strong, but none of them actually understand wrestling. They don't really get it other than I did. Now I'm with Team Takedown. These guys get wrestling, and then going with Jared's, he goes, it's not fun. It's not easy. It's like I really got to think. I really got to pay attention to what I'm doing because he knows what he's doing. He knows his position, knows his change. So he was giving you props even before that. You and I were even talking about having this interview. So he's really happy to be down there working with you. He's really happy to be down at Team Takedown. Of course, he's happy to be back home. Dallas is
Yeah.
being in Texas for him is like it's home for him. So he's happy to be back, and it shows in you guys too because you have Mark Lehman who's super excited to be there. He left Vegas purposely to go down and run Team Takedown specifically from Dallas. He's super excited to be there. He's happy as all hell to be in Dallas. And all of a sudden you have your Kenny Mondays in there. So you have these coaches that have all been brought back or brought in that are super excited to be around. Does it rub off on you guys, especially late in training camp, where you're like, I'm sore, I'm tired, but they're so happy to be around. They're calling you, hurry up, let's go. They're getting practices going. Like, does it rub off on you guys?
Yeah, it's great, going in there and wrestling, even having Kenny there and going to those practices, and then having the coaches show up to watch, and they're really into it. I mean, it makes you go a little bit harder because you're like, man, these guys are
Yeah.
here to watch us go. This has got to be. You're kind of thinking from their shoes. You're like, this has got to be fun to watch, because I know that we're getting after it hard. It's
Yeah.
got to be fun to watch kind of that level of wrestling stuff, and especially with Kenny, you know, being at his age and how tough he is. It's got to be an amazing thing to watch, and we have some good goes, you know, and it's been great with him. He's been a huge help, and
Yeah.
it's nice to, you know, I think that was kind of one of the missing things from Team Takedown was we had a wrestling base that we'd grown up, that we developed over time and went to OSU and developed and brought with us. But then, like, when you're doing stuff in the cage and you're working on things, it's nice to have another set of eyes that were from wrestling, because they can be like, this is what you're not seeing. I mean, you're not feeling it, but that's because you're not seeing it either, you know? And he can sit there and say, try this. And you're like, you know, why did I not think of that? Why did I not feel that? Well, you know, you just need another set of eyes, you know, from that background to say, hey, this is what you should try. And you do it and you're like, okay, why didn't I do that 2 years ago? You know, why didn't I think of that? You know, it's just nice to have that around.
So when we talk about having those other extra set of eyes, who comes up with the game plan then for Josh Copeland? Mark Lehman obviously is the head, and he's the final say. And what his is the rule, you know, as every group has to have a top end to kind of take the blunt if things go wrong, but also make sure that everything goes smooth. But how influential was your other coaches in getting the program put together for Josh Copeland?
It's been big between everybody, every camp. You know, every coach has their input and stuff, but you know, the wrestling one, last time I got away from the wrestling, and I went in there with a selfish game plan, was trying to take the guy's head off, you know, and make it. It was almost more like a, you know, like a bar fight or something, you know. And when I go back and look at it, it's like there were a lot of good things to take from it, but there were a lot of things that was like, hey, this is MMA, you know. Use everything, you know, not just go out there and headhunt, you know. It was a big mistake on my part, and that wasn't the game plan, you know. That wasn't what the coaches said, hey, this is what we should do. It was I got out there and then I just went into like tunnel vision. It's like, I got to finish this guy and do it in a big time fashion. And, you know, this time we all go into it. I'm using Kenny. I've doubled up my workouts with Kenny for this camp because Copeland's a tough guy. He's all of 265, all of 265 when he weighed in. He's got heavy hands. He's kind of a juggernaut. He took a lot of punches from Magomedov last fight, never went down. He's tough. And what most people don't know is Copeland actually came down and trained with me for a couple of days during that camp, my last camp and his camp, because we were on the same card. So it was kind of, you know, I kind of had a feeling maybe they would match us up. But then again, I figured, you know, no, probably Copeland doesn't want that fight. And you know, I'd like to have him back down to train again, too, because, you know, it's hard to find heavyweights to work out with. Yeah. And sure enough, they called when I was up at OSU working out, and they said, you know, Ted called me. He said, hey, it's you and Josh Copeland going at it, you know, in Dallas. I was like, okay, you know, I'm not going to say no to it or turn it down. It is what it is, and this is what I do. But, yeah, so, I mean, we have footage and stuff from sparring and everything with them, and, you know, so we know each other well, and, you know, we know what he does, and we know how tough he is.
You come from a wrestling background, and I've said it before to other guys in other interviews. You know, you might be wrestling your best friend in practice on Thursday and have to wrestle your best friend in the finals on Saturday, and that's just how it works. You know, and it's just that deal. Sometimes it makes the matches more exciting because you know each other so well, and sometimes it makes them really, really boring because you know each other so well.
Yeah.
You guys have only had a couple times to work out together, so it's almost just enough time to understand each other and get a little game plan put together. Do you think he has a better sense of you because of those two workouts of how he's going to prepare for you? Or do you think he's even got a worse sense because you were in a training camp preparing for a different guy?
I think he's probably got a worse sense. He's probably, you know, it wasn't, you know, I'm not going to bash the guy or say what happened in sparring because that's sparring anyways. And that's, you know, behind closed doors and stuff. And, you know, but I'm sure I expect him to come back and be a lot tougher and better than what he was when we rolled and when we sparred and but I think my strengths are way stronger than his and I think I'm strong in his weak parts and he's pretty strong in my weak parts, but I think mine are much more significant to the fight. So you know, and then like I said, it's nice because he was here training and stuff, so we have it all on film.
Yep.
We studied it and stuff. We've watched it. We've gone over it multiple times. We've seen it, and you know, I mean, I don't know how he's feeling and stuff. And Josh is a great guy, real nice and stuff. And like
this is part of competition. This isn't
Yeah,
you. This isn't you trying to step on somebody's neck and look. I brought them in so
no,
to learn. This is what competition's all about in our sport. We have to bring in, especially in the middleweight division, at the welterweight division, at the lightweight division. There's a million guys next door that you can work out with. At the heavyweight division, to be quite honest, there aren't that many good heavyweights, and there are heavyweights you can train with. But what good is it going to do you to work out with that guy that lives down the street? He doesn't have the skills you need. You have to bring a guy in. And the reason why I actually asked you that question is because as you're getting ready for Olenek, I don't see Copeland and Olenek being the same fighter. So when our games are very specific. You are now specifically getting ready for Josh Copeland, which is a different man than Alexander Orlenek. So, like, when he's coming into your training camp to work out with you, you're getting ready for somebody different, a different body type, a different look, and then you're rolling with him, and you beat him in some places, he beats you in some places, but you're like, it doesn't matter because I'm working for this guy. I'm trying to get ready for this guy. Now with this guy, it's different. So I always wonder, in a situation like that where Josh has trained with you, is he got a better sense or a worse sense? It sounds like, to me, from you at least, that you're saying, no, he doesn't really have a good sense of who I am because it's a different body type. It's a different person. So it's going to be interesting to see how this fight pans out because you do know each other, but you don't really know each other.
Yeah, and in his defense too, he was training for a kickboxer last training camp. I was training for a ground guy. Which I wasn't against going to the ground with him. I'm very comfortable there, but I was training for if I was going to have any problems with this guy, it's probably going to be on the ground. He was training for I'm going to be on my feet the whole time. But I didn't. We rolled once, and it went how I thought it would. And then we had sparring one of the days, and I stood on my feet for the most part for that fight, for the training with him, and it was he's much better on his feet than he is on the ground, but it wasn't anything I can't handle, and like I said, he's tough, but I don't care. It's the same thing. Like you wrestled somebody in college, in November, and then you end up catching them at nationals. Just because you majored them or even pinned them back in November means nothing when you get to the national tournament. And it's the same with this. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I did this to him or that, or this is how it went in sparring, and this is how it's going to go in fight night. No, not at all. I would never think that. I expect Josh to come back tougher, stronger, better shape, everything. I expect the best out of him. And, I'm ready for that. I expect nothing less. At this level, you got to.
Yeah, you have to. Everybody's great at everything, and then everyone has one specific place they're amazing at. You're great at every game, every part of the game of MMA, but wrestling is your forte. That's your backbone, and that's where you got to stick with it. I didn't like the way you fought your last fight. I thought that you were being. I know there's no way that was the game plan. It was just too ridiculous to be the game plan. And I didn't know if maybe something was wrong with your knee or you had a back problem because, if you shoot, you got it with a heavy guy, you shoot with a bad back, you shoot with a bad knee, it's really going to hurt you because you're a lighter heavyweight, like you said. So I'm glad to hear you say, look, I was stupid. I made a mistake. And now that was it. I've learned. I've moved on. Now it's time to get going. Wrestling is your forte. Stick with it. That's all you got to do. And most fights are going to be great for you. Win or lose, you're going to have a great fight if you wrestle like you're supposed to wrestle.
Yeah. I hated watching that. I hated watching the fight afterward, and that's the hardest part when you lose is you have to go watch it. You got to face it. You got to face the humility. You got to face the fans that say stuff. You got to face the music. And when I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, there were certain times when I had Olenek in these positions. I'm like, this is normally where I would take this guy down or put him on the ground. Yeah. I just wouldn't do it. I remember thinking specifically in that fight and specific situations when I was watching. I was like, right here, I was thinking, I can take this guy down or I can try and knock him out. And I let him back up and try to knock him out. And I'm just like, why would he do that? Now, hindsight's 20/20. You're looking back, you're like, this is what I should have, could have. But it is what it is, and I'd rather happen now than later. So you learn, and I'm young in the sport, and it's a learning thing. It's just the way it goes. It's tough losses.
It's funny how some of the people at home are looking at you, how great an athlete you are, how great a fighter you are, and they're I can tell you the refreshed to hear when this interview airs is going to be refreshed to hear. Like, I'm still learning, man. I'm still making mistakes. I'm still trying to figure it out like everybody else. I just happen to win more and make less mistakes than the other guy, and that's why I win. It's just, it's the game, and it's ever evolving and ever adjusting. Do you walk into practice sometimes, not in training camp because everything's set, like out of training camp, and you're like, I just watched the fight on Saturday. I watched whatever was on TV on Saturday, and you come in on Monday, you're like, did you just see that thing? You're like, that one technique or that one move, you're like, how the hell are we supposed to do that? You know, when somebody just came up with something new, like when Pettis went off the cage and kicked Benson Henderson in the head. Like that was the kick heard around the world, but no one had ever seen that before, and now everyone's trying to emulate it. Same with the front kick with Silva and Machida. All of a sudden, now everybody does it. It's like, it's like, well, how the hell can we ever get that done? Now we do it. So it's.
Yeah, I've still got a long ways to go, and I think if I'm losing and stuff and I'm not learning anything new, then maybe it's time to be done. But I lost, I made a mistake, got caught, and I'm still learning, and I'm still getting better, and I'm still motivated, and I'm ready to go. And one of the good things about with me too, and being with Team Takedown, is I don't have another job, so I'm training all the time. I'm ready to go. When they called me up, it's like 6 weeks. That's perfect. I'm already in shape. I'm already in shape. Let's get this camp started, and I don't have to work my way up. I don't have to start cutting weight. I don't have to watch what I'm eating at that time. I clean up my diet just to be more healthy and to get better energy, and then the rest of it's just get through training camp healthy, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, and that is a big deal with Team Takedown. I love what Ted's doing. That he's taking care of you guys in between, and then pays himself back off your wins. And that's really, I wish more management groups were like that, because there's a lot of great athletes out there. A lot. Yeah. I've interviewed probably 10 or 12 in the last 3 or 4 days that still have full-time jobs and have to train around the jobs because they can't afford to survive. So Team Takedown is really the format for how things should go, and people should realize that's what Ted did with Johnny. Took him from a nobody. Took him from some guy that kind of knew how to wrestle, was a great wrestler at Oklahoma State, great national, champ and runner-up, and then said, look, I'll make this guy an MMA fighter, and I'll make him a champ, and developed him into a champ, into it, and will be again, even though he just lost to Lawley, will be again. And there's a reason behind, the reason why he put so much time and dedication into it, because the formula works. When you help a guy and you help keep him in training camp, and you let him train every day and not worry about everything else, it's so much easier. Do you walk in do you really stop and think sometimes? I'm sure you do, because that's the kind of kid you are. You sit around and you think like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, man, like I never would have thought I'd be right here, right now. Like I'm getting ready to fight on a pay-per-view card. I'm getting ready to fight a big fight. I'm getting ready to, I'm fighting for the UFC. This is a huge deal for me. Like, do you sit down sometimes and just like give yourself a little pat on the back? Like I'm done good. I'm done okay. I'm doing okay right now.
I don't know. Maybe I should do that more often. I don't think I probably give myself as much credit as I probably should at times.
Right.
And I think that's just that mentality, from the sport that I come from. Guys, just it's never good enough. And once you're content with how you are, that's where you start going backward. So I'm always even after wins, like the Palele win. that was a big win for me.
Big win.
Tough guy,
Huge win. Yeah.
He was 14th ranked at the time, and it was my third fight. And, he's coming off this huge streak, and I beat him and stuff. And I get home, and it's like, I got to mow my lawn, I get home, I got to push mow my lawn. I'm like, this is what I got to do when I get home. I got to mow my lawn. And I'm out there push mowing with this old Murray lawnmower, from college. This thing's out there smoking and stuff, and I'm out there push mowing. I'm like, it's just, I don't want to pay somebody $50 to mow my lawn, so I'll just wait and do it when I get back. And it's just getting back. Like 2 days later, I go back in there and get on the treadmill and go for like a 30-minute run. It's you just got to keep getting better, and win, loss, whatever, look good, win, ugly win, pretty win, it doesn't matter. You still got to get back in there and keep trying to get better, because somebody else is working when you're not,
Yeah.
So
you're right. And ladies and gentlemen, that's Jared Rosholt getting ready to fight Josh Copeland up here on UFC 185, UFC 185. Sorry. Yeah. This is great talking to you, man. Thank you so much, Jared. I know it's a Sunday, it's your day off. I know it's family time for you, so I appreciate you coming on here with us. Have a great time, man. Hopefully I'll see you down in Dallas after the fight's over.
Yeah, anytime. I love getting on here and talking with you. Anytime.
Thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate it.
All right, yeah. If I see you there, I'll stop and talk for sure.
Absolutely. I love. So I won't bother till after the fight's over, so you can actually have a fun time talking. It gets fight week is so serious. It's such a serious time.
Yeah.
See you, bud. We'll talk later.
Yeah. See you later.